What's up guys, my name is Ace and welcome to today's class setup video. Now this is going to be a little bit different than other class setup videos. I'm not going to be showing you which classes I use and then have you copy those down and basically use those same classes for yourself. Instead, I'm going to go through what goes on in my head while I'm creating a class in Call of Duty Ghosts. So the number one thing that I'm always thinking is, what is this class going to be used for? What is this class designed to do? Well, let's just say for this first class, we're going to create a rushing class that's great for the smaller maps and good for rushing around, being extremely mobile, and just getting into the enemy's face and killing them a lot. So that means we probably want to be using a submachine gun here. You might want to use a shotgun as well, but I just find submachine guns are more useful and more versatile. So we're going to use a submachine gun. Let's just go with the Vepr. I really like the Vepr as a submachine gun. That's just a personal choice here. You can use whatever SMG you want. For attachments on the Vepr, I really like the extended mags because it already has a very large magazine, and with extended mags you have a really large magazine. And let's also go with the grip. Then we're a little bit more accurate. We can kind of compete with assault rifles at those mid to somewhat longer ranges. I wouldn't say long range, but I think you guys know what the range I'm talking about. It's not really far, but it's kind of far for an SMG typically. Now, I don't want to use a secondary for this class. I don't really feel a need. If I'm rushing around all the time anyways, there's always going to be a gun to pick up on the ground if I need it, so I can pick that up really quickly. I find that's not very useful. Lethal and tactical, I guess you could use a C4 if you wanted to, but I personally feel like a perk point is more important than C4. C4 is usually one guaranteed kill per life, and sometimes it's not even guaranteed, you'll just get a hit marker. Whereas perks, sometimes perks can be helping you all the time throughout the entire game. And same goes for lethal. I find lethals to be useful or useless in most situations and most game modes. Of course, there are certain situations that lethals or that tacticals are important. So, for instance, the B flag on whiteout, you could have concussion grenades or trophy system or something like that, and that would help you out a lot. But this is just going to be kind of a versatile rushing class. So we're going to focus on perks and we're going to load up on perks. So for a rushing class, well, for any class, I want to point out focus. This is something I use on every single one of my classes, except for shotgun classes sometimes, and also maybe not for sniper rifle classes, because they did kind of nerf focus for sniper rifles. But I'm not much of a sniper, so I don't really know. If it's something that you feel is useful on a sniper class, then use it. So focus is on every one of my classes. It's going to help you win every single face-to-face gunfight where the enemy lands a shot on you. So it's probably one of the most important perks in the game. Next, ready up. You're going to be rushing around like crazy. It's always nice to be able to get your gun up really quickly if you get caught off guard while you're sprinting. Now, since we're also rushing around, we want at least one of these two perks. We want Marathon or Agility. Since we're using an SMG, we don't necessarily need Agility. We could have it to be super mobile, but it's already pretty mobile as is. So we're going to go with Marathon so that we can just keep sprinting like crazy, get into the enemy spawn, and just wreck them. Now another thing, dead silence. This is extremely important if you're getting up close to enemies. If you run into an enemy that has a headset on, especially if they're running Amplify and you don't have dead silence, you're going to be in huge trouble. So dead silence is a must on most of my classes as well, unless I'm not moving. And then from here, you can kind of just use whatever works for you, whatever you feel is going to be most useful for the situations you're going to run into. Like, you might want to use Scavenger. For me personally, I have no problem with picking guns up off the ground, so Scavenger isn't going to be all that useful for this class for me. You might want it though. Sleight of Hand, that could be a very useful perk as well. I believe the Vepr reloads fairly slowly, so we're going to actually use Sleight of Hand on this one. And then finally, you could go with something like ICU. That's great for a rushing class. Ping is great for a rushing class. You might want to use that. And Amplify would be another choice. Now, normally I'd probably go with Amplify, but I'm starting to try and get away from Amplify because I kind of use it as a crutch right now, and I feel like I need it, and I want to get away from that sort of need to use that perk. So I'm going to go with Ping here. You could also go with Agility just to have that super mobility like I said, but I'm going to go with Ping. So this is just a class that I just made up off the top of my head right now, and I explained the decisions I made while I was doing that. Now for a strike package, do you feel like you're going to be able to stay alive long enough to go on a really high streak? Probably not with this class. So we don't want to be using really high assault streaks. We could use support if you're not very confident that you're going to be going on streaks. For support for a rushing class, I would use maybe something like an ammo crate. We don't have scavenger on, so that would help us. Ballistic vest, very useful for a rusher, and a night owl. That's also very useful for a rusher. You get that radar ping as you're pushing up into the enemy spawn. You'll see all the enemies around you that aren't using off the grid, and I think it also blocks explosives as well. So that would be a great class right there. That's a great rushing class for someone that's not really confident that they're going to be going on streaks while rushing like crazy, and you can have a ton of fun with this class. For me personally, I typically avoid support because I feel confident that I can earn streaks, but I would stick to the lower streaks for this particular class, because obviously I'm not going to be going for the higher streaks with an unsilenced rushing class. I feel like I could confidently earn an IMS just about every single life, and then from there I could potentially earn the sentry gun or battle hind, which are very important and very useful, especially in objective game modes. Alright, so that's how you make a rushing class. Let's move on to a class. Once again, we're going to be thinking, what is this class going to be designed for? This next class, I'm going to say, is for longer range encounters, so maybe you're going to use this class on Stonehaven or one of those bigger maps like that, and let's just say we want to move around the map in a methodical way and not have to worry about the longer range encounters, and we want to work our way to a high streak with this class. So this is definitely, we're going to be designing this around earning high assault streaks. So Helo Pilot, Griffin, and we'll just say Battle Hind for a starter streak. Okay, so that is what we're designing this around. Long range encounters and high streaks. And because we want to be kind of mobile with this, I would use an assault rifle. You might also want to go with an LMG, but I feel like I want to move around a little bit on the map, and assault rifles are definitely better for that. Now we want some gun that will be able to handle those longer range encounters. I find that the SC-2010 can compete with snipers at like really long ranges across Stonehaven. So I'm going to go with the SC-2010 for this class. You might want to use also the like Remington, or I think the AK-12 is not the greatest at range, but it's not too bad either. Really, whatever you feel comfortable using at longer ranges. So I'm going to use the SC-2010 like I said. Now attachments on this, I feel like the iron sights are perfect, so for me personally, I don't feel like I need to use a sight. If you feel like you need to use a sight on the gun that you're using though, then go ahead and use it. This is definitely just personal preference as you're creating this class, a lot of this stuff. We could use muzzle brake, but I feel like since we're going to be trying to go on a higher streak, silencer is going to be more important. Keep me off the radar, allow me to move around the map and kind of get onto the enemy's flank and just basically wreck the enemy while staying alive and staying off the radar. Now you could use a grip here as well. The grip is pretty effective on the SC-2010, but the SC-2010 also has very little recoil to begin with, so you're just kind of making something that's already amazing just a little bit better, which I don't feel is really needed. I would rather go with extended mags. This will also give me more total ammo, so I don't have to worry about running out of ammo so much, and I don't have to worry about running scavenger. I could run scavenger though. I think I may actually run scavenger, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So for the secondary, I feel like I don't need a secondary. If I need to pick up a weapon off the ground, I can do that because I am going to be somewhat mobile. And also I have extended mags, so there shouldn't be any situations where I run out of ammo dealing with multiple enemies and have to switch to my secondary to finish a guy off. So secondary, I don't feel like it's useful. Lethal, definitely for this one, I feel like there are no lethals that are going to help me out a ton while I'm slowly and methodically moving around this map, picking enemies off as I go. There's no lethals that I feel are going to help me, and same goes with tactical. I don't feel like any tactical equipment is going to help me much. So once again, we're going to be stacking up on perks, and once again, starting off with focus. This is a must-have on a class for me personally, and I highly recommend you do the same. Dead silence, that's another one that is almost a must-have for me, especially if you're going to be doing any sort of moving around the map. The only time I typically would avoid dead silence, it would be on like a sniper rifle class where I'm not really planning on moving much. Other than that, I always run it. Now what else do we want? I'm thinking we want either quick draw or stalker. These are really helpful perks for winning gunfights, and I'm going to go with stalker for this one. This is going to allow me to sort of aim down sight before I go around corners, and I can sort of strafe really quickly around corners, and I can also strafe in gunfights back and forth, which will help me win those gunfights a lot more often. Okay, so now what else are we trying to do? We have to think back to what are we trying to accomplish. We want to stay alive for a long period of time, so scavenger would be really helpful here. I don't want to have to pick up a gun off the ground and worry about it being unsilenced. This class is tailored around being silent and off the radar, so I feel like Scavenger is going to be helpful here. Another one that might be helpful is Sit Rep if you would like, since you are trying to get onto the enemy's flank a little bit. You may run into some IEDs or some problems with that, but I don't know. I don't feel like I need to use it. If you're just really careful in the hot spots where IEDs should be, then you won't have to worry about it too much. One thing, I could go with Ready Up. Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Ready Up. This is just going to help me aim down sight. I usually like to use either Quick Draw or Ready Up on my class. It doesn't matter what class it's going to be. And that's just simply getting your gun up and getting aimed down sight quickly is really important in a gunfight, so I like to have either one or the other. And since we have one perk left, we have to look at the 1-point perks. So Strong Arm, that's obviously not going to help us at all. Recon, that's obviously not going to help us at all. Extra Lethal, not going to help us at all. So the only perks that may help us would be On the Go, Takedown, Gambler, and Resilience. On the Go, I actually find to be a detrimental perk because you can't reload cancel, or you can't sprint cancel or reload with On the Go. So it actually takes longer to reload if you use On the Go if you're somebody that would normally reload cancel. So that's out. That's out of the question completely. Resilience, this is something that might help you out like once every 3 or 4 games. It's really not all that useful in my opinion, especially for a class like this where we're moving around slowly. We probably aren't going to be getting into any situations where we feel like we have to jump off of something to avoid an enemy or something like that, so I feel like it's not going to be all that useful. And Gambler, I don't like to use so much anymore, because sometimes it just gives me a useless perk, or maybe it's going to give me On the Go, which I really don't like. So I'm going to go with Takedown. This is definitely going to help with getting onto the enemy's flank and sort of staying off their radar. Not necessarily their mini-map, but you know what I mean. Staying off their radar and their head, I guess you could say it. So there we go. We have a class that is designed for building up high streaks, engaging enemies at longer ranges, and it's perfect for everything there. You could potentially put on Quick Draw, Stalker, like you can definitely move things around. Just always go back to what is this class designed to be used for, and just make sure you're picking perks that are going to help that playstyle and complement that playstyle. Alright, so we've created kind of 2 extremes here a little bit, well, somewhat extremes. I guess the real extremes would be snipers and shotguns, but I'm not going to worry about those classes. Those are kind of specialty classes that I don't recommend using in regular play. That's something I recommend using when you're bored and you want to try something different. So I'm not going to be covering sniper or shotgun classes. We're just going to create one more class here because this video is getting longer than I thought it would be already. And this one is actually going to be my go-to class. I'm going to sort of quickly explain why I choose what I choose on my go-to class. And I'm also going to use Specialist for this one, which I sometimes use, sometimes don't use. So Assault Rifle, I'm going to use my favorite Assault Rifle, which is the Honey Badger. My favorite attachments on this is Grip and Extended Mags. Now Extended Mags is very helpful for getting a large total ammo count and also dealing with multiple enemies. And the Grip I feel isn't really needed on the Honey Badger, but it does help with those longer range encounters. Some people like to use sights, but I like the iron sights on the Honey Badger, so we're not going to use sights. Secondary, I don't like to use secondaries like I've explained in most classes unless I'm using, say, like a sniper rifle. If you want to switch to a pistol, that can be really important, but for this class, I don't need a secondary. Same with Lethal and Tactical. Once again, I just don't feel a need for them. These things might help you get 1 kill, or they might get you 1 kill per life, whereas perks can be helping you at all times. So we're going to move on to perks. This class is designed to be really mobile, get into the enemy's face, and not have to worry about dealing with longer range gunfights at the same time. So Ready Up, again, focus of course, that's the #1 thing, focus, Ready Up. I want to be really mobile. I really like using this class for opening routes. I can get right up into the enemy's face and get to a position of advantage before they expect me to be there right off the beginning of a game. So I'm going to use both Agility and Marathon. Dead Silence of course. And then I like to use Amplify for this class. So I can get right up into the enemy spawn. They can't hear me. I can hear everything around me. I have Focus to help me win gunfights. I can get there very quickly using both Agility and Marathon. And then Ready Up is going to help me if I get caught off guard while I'm sprinting. So there we go. We've created that class. And for this one, if I'm against a party, I'll use IMS, Sentry, and Battle Hind because these streaks can actually turn the tides on a tough domination game if they're used correctly. You can shut down a very important laneway or you can defend a flag with the IMS if placed properly, and then once you get to that battle hind, you're distracting all the enemies, and you can really wreck an enemy team and ruin a full setup, especially against a clan of people that are trying to win a domination game. If you can earn all these streaks, you can often distract them for long enough to capture flags. But we're going to go with Specialist for this one, just to change it up a little bit, because I've already covered assault streaks a couple times already in this. So for this, I just want to think. I'm probably going to need Scavenger once I get a few kills. So I find Scavenger is great as a first perk in the chain of your Specialist package. So we're going to use Scavenger there. That's about when we'll need ammo. After that, I feel like I need a boost to help me win gunfights. So we could use either Stalker or Quick Draw. And for me personally, just over the past month or so, I've been using Quick Draw a little bit more often, and I feel like it helps me win a lot of gunfights, more so than Stalker even on the Honey Badger, especially with me rushing around like crazy. I'm not playing it slow and methodical. I'm not aiming down sight before going around corners. I'm just rushing around like crazy. I'm using Ready Up on my class, and then Quick Draw is going to help me win those gunfights a lot more effectively. And then I've really also started to like using Sleight of Hand. It really helps you when you're dealing with multiple enemies, you're up in the enemy spawn. Sleight of Hand can be extremely useful for that. Now for the bonus, these are just bonus perks that are going to help me once I reach that, so I feel like Sit Rep is really helpful because it really sucks dying to an IED once you get on a really high streak and maybe you're getting close to a Chem Strike. Sit Rep can be really helpful. Ping I've also found to be a really cool perk to use, especially once you're into the enemy spawn, and that ping will basically light up anybody around the guys that you killed, and if you're in the enemy spawn, there's likely going to be lots of guys around you. Takedown can be useful, and that leaves us with 3 perks. We could go with Incog, we could go with Off the Grid if we wanted to. You could go with Wiretap, but I don't really feel it's all that useful, especially if you're already running Ping. You might want to also go with ICU and then another 1-point perk. This is really up to you, and just what do you think is going to help you the most. So for me personally, I'm going to go with ICU here and then Resilience, so I don't have to worry about any fall damage. This way, once I get to my bonus, I feel like I can confidently work my way up to that Chem Strike by using this. And I know this is completely different than the class I showed you in my Chem Tactics series. Well, quite a bit different. There are a few similarities for sure. And this is just how things go. I'm not going to use those exact classes every single game, every time I want to go for a Chem Strike. I'm always trying to mix things up, try new things, and find out what works best for every given situation. And I'm tailoring this class to those situations that I'm trying to put myself in. So there we go. There's 3 classes for you, and my thought process that goes behind creating those classes. So I really hope this is going to help you guys create your own classes, rather than just copying my classes and hoping that you'll be successful with the same classes that I use. And keep in mind, my classes change just about from game to game sometimes. I'm always messing around with things, always trying new things out, and it's not necessarily the class that's going to make you the great player. It's designing the class for your personal playstyle and what you're planning to do with that class. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys next time.